I am, oh, uh, I'm Teresa Alameen. I'm the Advancing Human Rights Chair. I'm the Fannie Lou Hamer branch organizer based in Columbus, Georgia. Uh, and so those are the roles I have in Will. So we're asking everyone to do an introduction with the roles you have in Will. And since Joan Park was the first person on after me, um, we'll go Joan, George, and then Joan Goddard, and then George Friday, because hopefully George will be letting people in. So Joan Poss, could you introduce yourself again?
My name is Joan Poss. I'm from the Fresno Wilf branch. I haven't been as active lately because I think I'm the elder in the branch. But and I lost my husband not too long ago, so I've been just getting back into Wilf. But one of the most important things to me was the 15 years that I was the field instructor for Wilf interns. And I don't know if very many branches do that, but it is quite a bit of work. But I think it's well worth it because we introduce young women to Wilf. And we would like to begin to have that internship again here. Does any other branch have Wilf interns?
Joan, let's stick to the agenda. You brought up an important topic, and we will take a moment to talk about the importance of next generations in this 109-year-old organization, which has a lot of elderly folks. So if we could go with Georgia Conroy for her introduction, and then Joan Goddard, and then George Friday.
Georgia just stepped out of the room, and it looked like she was chasing a dog, but here she comes.
I am so sorry. You know, I was working on my ad, and I forget to eat, so I have a stomach ache now and a cramp in my stomach. That's the only reason. I'm so sorry. But am I checking in now?
Oh yeah, please introduce yourself, your branch, and the roles you have in Wilf.
Okay. Well, I've been with Wilf now for maybe, let's see. I know it's been since let's see, was it 2016? Maybe that far back, yeah. Yeah, I've been pretty active, and I've done artwork for them. You know, and I did presentations for them during for the annual things that, like for instance, the Nagasaki Hiroshima annual celebration. I'm so sorry. I have problems talking, actually. I'll just come up. Oh, Gloria's here. Great. Gloria's also Koko's son. Great. Hi, Gloria. So I'm the only one who you can see now. Maybe I'll just take myself up here.
Georgia, thank you for your introduction.
Okay.
With the Tucson branch.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, Joan Goddard, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm in the San Jose, California branch, and several of the Wilf U.S. committees, member, but not a leader in them now. Anyway, glad to be here. Good to meet you, Georgia. Sorry you're not feeling well. Next person is George.
Well, Joan, Joan, you are not facilitating the meeting. Please, I really dislike that you do that.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that I was. Okay, I'm gonna mute so I don't blast out.
Well, you know, just it's just the kind of thing that is really unconscious because the roles that some of you have played in Will, you just seem to never let go. And
Okay, can we go on with the introductions and
No,
scold me later?
we can,
Thank you.
no, we can do what I want to do because this is important for the communications that we need to have as we work to dismantle the whiteness and the white supremacy in this organization, which these kind of little things, as subtle as they may seem to you, are a reflection of that. And I'm very conscious of that at this moment in time, given the history of this committee in particular and your role in it. And I'm glad that this is being recorded because we want to be frank with each other about the history of this committee and your role previously in it. And I just say, stop it. Gloria from Tucson, please introduce yourself because George Friday will come after you. Gloria Macmillan, Miss Communications Person. Can you communicate with your name, your branch, and the roles you play in the organization? Gloria, are you there? You're muted, Gloria. If you're trying to talk, we can't hear you because you're muted. Well, George, why don't you introduce yourself while Gloria is getting herself together? Thank you.
Okay. Today I was on a call, the search committee, and Kylie did unmute somebody. I didn't think you as host could unmute someone, but she did. Okay, I'm George Friday. I am in the Southern Piedmont branch of North Carolina. I'm the program committee chair on the board, and that's plenty.
Oh, well, yes. And George does so much more in supporting, as program committee chair, supporting the Advancing Human Rights Committee, which has 4 working groups. And the working groups are ending mass incarceration and the death penalty, which I convene, the Housing Justice Working Group, which I convene, the Border Migration Justice Working Group, which Adrian Bernal, who is in the Metro Atlanta branch, he convenes that working group, which will meet on Sunday, this Sunday, the 21st at 5 p.m. And the 4th working group is this working group, the UN Decade Reparations. Now, the UN Decade began January 1st of 2015, and it will run until December 31st of this year. However, the UN has decided that 10 years wasn't enough, and so we will probably have another decade, which starts in 2025. But for the
I unmuted. Yay.
you need to mute yourself. Whoever is that, you,
Okay.
Gloria?
Yeah, see, I'm unmuted now.
Oh,
And I was gonna do my picture too. Let me do our faces because I'm bringing you a guest today. And the guest is my friend Emily. Let's see. Can you see
well,
him?
please introduce yourself, Gloria, and
Yeah.
let your guests introduce.
All right. I'm Gloria McMillan from the Tucson branch and active on the Restart Chicago branch and Disarm and the new Arts and Cultures Committee. So, do you want to introduce yourself, Emily? No. You don't want to introduce yourself? Oh, okay. Well, Emily is here, but she's shy. What?
I'll listen.
Oh, she's gonna listen.
Well, hi, Emily Ricketts.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, it's good to know you're still in the Tucson branch. So we have 3 members of the Tucson branch here. Isn't that great? So as I was explaining, the UN Decade Reparations Working Group, my dear friend and freedom fighter, Claudia Fatima Peary Smith, when I spoke with her earlier today, she was very excited about coming to tell her story. She's been involved with reparations for 50 years. She's an expert on it, and she agreed to take over convening this working group. But in the absence of Claudia, we were planning to have each branch report what they're doing or the potential of passing a reparations ordinance, either in your state or in your city. So I'll begin with the state of Georgia, where I live. There have been several reparations ordinances passed in municipalities in Georgia, including the Atlanta area, and where there's a study going on. So an ordinance was passed to put $250,000 into studying reparations in Fulton County, which is where Atlanta, Georgia, is the county seat, and DeKalb County, which is kind of an adjacent county in the metro Atlanta area, is also working on a reparations ordinance. In Columbus, Georgia, where I live, it's going to be a little bit of a slower process, but we've begun the process by letting the city manager, the mayor, and everyone elected know that we want to pass a reparations ordinance by the bicentennial, which is 2028. Columbus, Georgia is a city that was founded during slavery in 1828, and it was actually a slave-holding, slave-selling city. There's a block of the main street, Broadway, at 12th and Broadway, where they conducted slave auctions. So we have been saying reparations for all of the lynchings and all of the other history of terrorizing Black people over these 200 years, which continues to this day. And as the Fannie Lou Hamer branch and my primary organization, which is the Southern Anti-Racism Network, which is the fiscal sponsor for the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, well, together with other community members, including the NAACP and the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, we've agreed as Black-led organizations to work together on the reparations ordinance by 2028, which will primarily address the issue of housing, because we had 1,358 evictions in 2023, and already 1,540 dispossessories have been filed between January and June. And I'm waiting on the report from the sheriff's office about how many actual evictions have been done in the first 6 months of this year. But I think we're on a pathway so that by the end of this year, it might be even more evictions than last year. So that's the report from Georgia. So if we could hear from California, because I did hear something interesting about California in terms of reparations, I think recently, but maybe Joan can report, Joan Goddard could report on what's happening there, because I know there's lots of activity on reparations in California. Joan, could you report?
Hey, the other two folks may have something more than I do. I know that the state reparations task force, which put out I think it was 500 pages, the final report a year ago, has introduced some bills in the legislature. And as far as our local work, the African American Community Services Agency is taking the lead and has pulled together over, I guess now maybe it's been 2 years or maybe 3, a group with people from different organizations, including our Wealth San Jose group. And that's all I have to report. I'm sorry, the next meeting of that group won't be until August 8th. And the last meeting was in June. So we're slowly coming along here. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of groups tend to take the month of July off. I understand it. And you're the only person here from California so far, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking the Tucson people were from Fresno. I beg your pardon. Oh, mercy.
Oh no,
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. There is another person from California, and that's Joan Poss, who is from Fresno. So Joan, since we're talking California, would you please let us know anything that you know about Fresno involved with what's going on in California on reparations? Because California is the big state we're really looking to because it has done more work at the state level than any other state I know of on reparations. Joan, do you have anything to add? Joan Poss. She's muted. So if she's talking, George, is she trying to talk? George, you have to unmute yourself.
The only thing I have to report, because I don't have too much information because I've just become active again, is I know that Jean Kennedy, I'm sorry that she isn't on this call because she's one of our local representatives, and she has meetings quite often with WILF members about discrimination and prejudice, and she would be the one who would know about reparations. And I'm sorry that I don't have the information, and I'm going to have to excuse myself now because I have some other things on my plate, and I will talk to my branch about reparations and see what's going on here.
Well, give our best to Dr. Jean. I do know Dr. Jean Kennedy, and we have talked many times when she was planning on moving to Georgia a few years ago. So hopefully we'll be hearing from her soon. But the other thing I think I heard about California is that California put a $12 million line item in the state budget for reparations. So did I hear that correctly, Joan? Do you recall, Joan Goddard?
I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
I'm talking about Joan Goddard.
We got so many Jones here, we're confusing. Yeah, now that you mentioned
I'm going to excuse.
Okay, thank you, Joan Poss. You have a good evening, Joan Poss. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Also, Joan Goddard, you remember hearing that too?
Yes, I do remember hearing that. Yeah. And there are some details that I don't have about what the proposals are right now. Sorry.
Well, the great thing is that it is the very first time that a state has put a line item in its budget for reparations. So California is for certainly moving ahead of most states. And so it's the example to watch. So if we could hear from Tucson to hear what's going on in Tucson or in Arizona that you know about reparations.
Gloria, I'm going to let you talk.
Well,
I think we-
I was gonna let you talk because you go to more of our meetings, but anyway, I think we need to contextualize Arizona in opposition or in comparison to California. We have a very low African-American population here in Arizona. I'm sure you know that, Teresa, right?
Well,
We are full of two issues, two values, Anglo-Hispanic, Anglo-border. So it's very hard. Here's the reason I'm contextualizing this is it's very hard to get other items that don't have a huge voting constituency behind them. We have about 5% African Americans here in Tucson. And in the state, I'd have to look it up, but it's not anywhere near like the Native American or the Hispanic.
well, Gloria,
But I finish my
Gloria.
report, please?
no, Gloria.
All right, then you're done with me. Thank you.
No, because Emily Ricketts is sitting there, and
Emily
she
does
is,
not want to speak, as she already told you. So I'm just
Well,
trying to go on with the report, and I'll check in with
no,
Emily if she has something
no.
else.
Gloria, I just wanted to say that the state of Rhode Island has a 2% African population.
Thank you for that information.
So it doesn't matter about the percentage because people of African descent, in many cases, came here to be enslaved. So reparations is appropriate, even though, because there's an NAACP there, and I can tell you anywhere that Black people are, more than likely they are joined together in some ways to fight.
Emily had something to say about the NAACP and the Urban League here, which I'm familiar with, and I've attended some of their events. There hasn't been, to her knowledge, anything started yet by either of those organizations, at least in Tucson, about reparations. And that's where it is, sadly.
Well, is there anything positive that you have to report about the potential for reparations and an ordinance
And talk,
in
but
Arizona
nothing
or
actually.
Tucson?
Well, you want to say that? Go. You're gonna have to go a little bit closer, maybe.
Okay. This is Emily Ricketts speaking.
Can you
Thank you.
hear Emily?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we hear you clearly. Thank
Yeah,
you.
now there's talk, but there's been no action or activities about reparations here in Tucson in any real meaningful way to report. But there is interest, and our population fluctuates between 3 and 5%. And currently, we usually say 5% of the population here is African American, but it's fluid because many of them are retirees from the military that come here and some stay. So our population itself is generally thought of, and the data indicates between 3 and 5%.
Mhm. Yeah, that is low.
Yes.
But Emily,
Yes.
in terms of, I remember when we talked before, you said you were active in the NAACP, and the convention is just ending in Nevada. And I do know that the NAACP nationally supports reparations.
Yes, that's true.
So what about the branch in Tucson?
Okay, that's what I was saying, that I am not an active member currently for various reasons of the NAACP, but I'm just saying from the friends that I know who are active in it and the president of it, there is no activity that I'm aware of, just with conversations and connections with them, of anything other than talking about it.
Well, thank you,
But
Emily.
it's on the table, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it is on the table everywhere. There's nowhere where
That's
it is,
right.
because we do have national legislation.
Right.
HR 40 that it's been talked about since John Conyers started it in the
Yes,
late 80s. So
very
it is
true.
on the table
Very true.
more now than ever before. So
Yeah.
thank you, Emily, for speaking
And
up.
the only other thing I can comment is that the Urban League here in Tucson is right now, to my knowledge, inactive.
Mm,
There have been problems with it in the recent past, prior to COVID. So it's not really an active organization in the sense that it used to be
mm.
here in Tucson.
Well, I think it's important for us to examine the question of active and inactive, because I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP, and the branch here is over 80 years old, and it has gone from heights of activity under good leadership to currently it is very weak. And so I'm glad that the president reached out to me recently about the crisis in the housing area, which I agreed to chair the housing committee because, you know, the NAACP is based on working committees, and their bylaws and their rules and branches should comply. And so, you know how that works,
Yes.
and I
Well,
can
the end.
understand. Well,
Okay.
just let me finish this sentence. I can understand in a community where the population of people of African descent, because the NAACP is a Black-led organization, and if the numbers of Black people are very low in the community, I could see that Black-led organizations like the Urban League and the NAACP in Arizona could be weak. Here in Columbus, we have a very strong Urban League, and the Urban League is having their national meeting July 24th. And so next week, so people will be converging on, I've forgotten where it's going to be this year. I think I heard New Orleans. But these are all organizations that at the national level are flourishing. And so the huge numbers of members of the NAACP national is growing. And if you've ever been to a national convention, you know how strong the NAACP is, and every president and usually presidential candidates show up there. And Biden spoke at this convention this week. They don't miss it. So it is important that we have these Black-led organizations. Very important. So we've heard from everybody except Southern Piedmont, I believe. So
Can I
George,
speak, please? May I speak?
Georgia.
who?
May I
George,
speak? May I speak, please?
go
Because
right ahead, Georgia.
I will try to relate what the subject is, but I do know that there is a tenants union here for the housing problems that we have in Tucson. And just very recently, in fact, I was the one who recommended Hassan Clement to receive an award. And he was leading he was meeting with city council and doing wonderful things. And Hassan Clement is really, really a wonderful person. He's a Black person. And I'm very happy he's receiving the award, one of the recognition certificates of recognition that's in here. So I just want to tell you
George,
that.
it's being given to him by whom? The city council?
It's given to him with an annual celebration that the Southern Arizona community activists give every year. And there's a lot of people that come to this award ceremony. And in fact, Margot Newhouse received the one last year. She was a wealth member. She received a certificate of recognition. So we're doing pretty well with that. And it's put forth by the Representative Raul Grijalva. That's the title of Raul Grijalva is in charge of these certificates and the awards. There's 2 awards and then 5 certificates of recognition. It's really a wonderful thing.
It sounds like it. Gloria, was your hand up?
No. Well, this is Emily again. I was talking about the Urban League that is inactive currently, not the NACP. They're very strong. In fact, one of the things that I am happy about is that I'm an active member of the League of Women Voters of Greater Tucson. And we just had an event last night commemorating John Lewis and the advancement of the, the Voter Act. And it was a wonderful program. And the NAACP here has been partnering with the League of Women Voters in the effort of the coming primary and general election. So I'm happy to see that the NAACP is partnering now in a way that it did not in the past. But the Urban League is the one that I was saying, as far as I knew, is inactive. There have been some administrative problems with it, and even before COVID. But I do know Georgia, I know Hassan Clements, and I did not go to that awards ceremony, but I know how active he is in the relationships with tenants and landlords, and the organization that he has founded to help people with that issue of housing. So, and that's quite a group, and it is growing under his leadership as well. Ask what the word is.
You know, in the civil rights movement, we all understood that one person can make a difference. We saw that over and over again. So I'm glad to hear about Hassan, and I'm glad to hear that the voting rights issue, which is at the top of every NAACP agenda, because we do plenty on voting rights here to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which has been a big disappointment of the current administration that it hasn't been passed yet. So when I worked with John in 1965, 66 in Alabama and Atlanta, and the fact that he passed away in 2020 at the age of 80, and we still haven't gotten this act passed. It's just crushing. But we'll continue to work on it. Thank you, Emily, for raising the issue of voting rights, because that is one of the things that falls into the reparations category big time. So George Friday, could you please talk about Southern Piedmont and North Carolina?
Sure. Well, things haven't gotten past the talking stage. And in Charlotte, which is a major Piedmont city, Southern Piedmont city, Myers Park Baptist Church this year held its second Confronting Whiteness Conference. They intend for this to be a yearly conference. This year's theme was Making It Right, Make It Right, which was all about reparations. But it's just talk, and talk from the community of faith that has some influence, but there's no policy that started. There was a informal conversation that people in Charlotte, I was one of those people in Greensboro, basically the Johnsons, and they were referring to Durham And I was referring to people that I know in Asheville. And the informal conversation is that when Asheville, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Durham are all done, some baseline of progress towards reparations in our locations, then we can push for a state policy. And they were thinking that was 2 years out. And given what Samantha, who used to be very active in Wilf but had to pull back, her mother died on Tuesday, Teresa. She described the meetings, the Confronting Whiteness conference, as just white people talking to white people. She didn't think it was an effective body. But that's the only reference about reparations in our city, around our city, our location, this branch. In my town, there's nothing. It's my responsibility to try to get something going, but Shelby, it's not even on the radar.
Is anyone speaking? We can't hear.
Teresa, you there?
I've been talking like crazy and I didn't realize I was muted. So I muted. But what I was saying to you, George, is that North Carolina is a state I know well. And so the 1898 massacre, because of political power during Reconstruction, the Wilmington massacre, reparations have been talked about, and I think there's been something worked out. And then when those women, Black women, overwhelmingly were being sterilized at a period during, I think it may have been as recently as the 60s. So
The
there have been
70s too. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
remember.
And I was mentioning the Catholic Church under a previous pope apologized for slavery and the work that was done in Africa under the name of missionary work. And so the Catholic Church in different places began to pay reparations. And for the city of Durham, a $3 million community center was constructed. And so when the father, David, would come to city council meetings, everybody would stand up and applaud. He was with the Franciscans, the oldest order, I understand, in the Catholic Church. And so we have to begin to see Chase Bank has been playing reparations in Africa and in New Orleans and in some other places for their redlining. So this is the kind of research that some of us know about, and we will use it as we work towards reparations in our own communities. Because Asheville, I mean, that was a real surprise years ago in northwestern North Carolina. A town that is overwhelmingly white, but it has the poorest Black population, under 20%, but they set up reparations. So the consciousness of people in towns is what drives whether or not reparations will pass, which is why Durham has stepped out early. And I think that other cities in North Carolina will begin to follow the lead of Asheville and Durham on the question of reparations, George. But it does involve planning your work and working your plan. You know me, it's all about the strategic plan. Well, dear folks, we're down to 4 branches. We have San Jose, Tucson, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Southern Piedmont. So our next meeting would be August 15th. And let's just stick with that for now. August 15th, which is the 3rd Thursday in the month, and we would meet at 6:30. So if there's nothing more for the meeting tonight, I'm surprised that the 6 other people who signed up, well, Joan was here, so I guess it's down to 5 people who signed up who are no shows. And so hopefully they're enjoying their evening. I may go to the Columbus Jazz Society Thursday evening event.
Do it in reaction, I guess.
I don't know, somebody's talking while I'm talking. Gloria.
Yeah, we need to announce that the 2 of us, Emily and I, are going to be at the Community Advisory Board meeting of ACPM during that time. So we probably won't be there live for this next reparations meeting, but we will watch it.
Oh, on the August 15th one?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, it's possible we may switch it to August 22nd, because I'm actually planning a forum, and the date that everybody's kind of leading on is August 15th, but we'll let you know.
Okay.
And it's good to know that you have a conflict as well, because we may switch it to the 22nd. Does anyone have a conflict with August 22nd?
Guess it depends what time.
Oh, it's always 6:30 p.m.,
Oh, 6:30. Well,
which is 6:30 Eastern time.
I have another Zoom that time, but you know, I have another Zoom that time, but yeah, I can skip it.
But Gloria and Emily, do you have a conflict on August 22nd at this time?
I don't think so.
Emily's not entirely sure, but I looks like my calendar is not busy.
Well, great. Because we may just switch it to the 22nd. I'll know for sure on Monday when I have a meeting with the president of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, because we'll be using his church for the event that's planned for August 15th, and he will be giving final approval on Monday. And if he does that, we will definitely switch the meeting to the 22nd. So just keep that in mind. And thanks to all of you for coming. And I look forward to seeing you at the umbrella meeting. By the way, George, the umbrella meeting will be July 30th, which I believe is the last Tuesday, because I believe there are 5 Tuesdays in July, George.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Tuesday before that is the city council meeting where I'm speaking about housing justice. And that meeting starts at 5:30. So I know that we won't do the AHR umbrella meeting until the 30th. of July. So hopefully we will see all of you on the 30th. And I will try to find out what happened with Sister Fatima because she was so excited about becoming the new convener, and I'm not giving up on her. So hopefully I'll hear from her and then we can see her on the 30th. But thank you all for coming.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the umbrella meeting? I know we have a EDAC BLC at 1 p.m. on the 28th. What is the umbrella meeting?
The umbrella meeting is what we say to describe the meeting of the whole, which means that all of the working groups and all of us come together at the umbrella meeting. So it's a meeting of the whole advancing community, advancing human rights, and all of the working groups. And we call it the umbrella meeting because it takes in all of the conveners and all of the people who are in any of the working groups. And we refer to it as the umbrella meeting.
I have a question. It seems like we moved the CCS committee out of AHR. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It never was in AHR.
Okay, so then I do not need to attend the umbrella meeting, or do I?
Yes, because you're part, you come to several of the working
Oh,
groups.
okay.
So
All right.
you're a member of Advancing Human Rights, big
Oh,
time.
okay.
You're a member of Advancing Human Rights, big time. So this is for all of the members of Advancing Human Rights, whether your issue that you are prioritizing is housing justice, ending mass incarceration, UN decade reparations, or border migration justice. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you're in the Advancing Human Rights Committee. And so we all come together then. And what's going to be important about the meeting on the 30th, we will talk about how we will disperse the $500 funds. So each convener of each working group will say how they might use $100 because we have $500 and it's a case of use it or lose it. And so I know how I would use it for housing justice. If I had $100, I had asked for more because nobody else seemed to be asking for money. But we're going to give everybody a chance so that we kind of equally spread it around. And the $100 that's left, maybe it will turn into $125 for each of the working groups. So instead of just 100. So that's what will be important about the umbrella meeting. We will be talking budget. So thanks again for
Please
coming.
repeat the time.
Yeah, it's always it's at 8 p.m. for the umbrella meeting. So it's always at 8 p.m. and we stick to a strict 1 hour meeting for all the working groups as well as the umbrella meeting. So it'll be a 1 hour meeting at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And by the way, the BLC EDAC joint meeting is at George, isn't it at 4 p.m. Eastern time?
I don't think so.
George, on Sunday,
I'm
July
gonna go
20th.
look.
It
That's
is
what I have.
Yeah, because it would be 1 p.m. Gloria's
1
time,
p.m.
right, Gloria?
That's what I
That's
have.
exactly right, George. It's
Okay.
always been at 4 p.m. Well, thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Gloria. And
Oh, you're
thank you
welcome.
so much for bringing Emily. It was great to have her input in the meeting. Thank you so much, Emily. Really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Okay.